Friday night when we're like in high school football mode, but a lot of our viewers may not have seen that story Friday night. So flex football looks to me to be very much like flag football, except they have the kids wearing light pads, not the full tackle football padding, and then they have soft shell helmets.
They almost look like the old school football, like way
like the leather
back.
helmets, the leather heads.
The leather heads.
And from what I can gather, and again, my only familiarity with the story is what Catherine had in her story, her 2-minute piece, and we're going to show it to you here in a minute. But it looks to me like they are playing the game of flag football. They're still attaching the flags to their sides. They're still pulling flags to tackle a kid. The difference being these light pads and that soft shell, old school looking helmet. And my only guess is that would prepare them for what it's like to play the tackle version of the game with those pads and that helmet on.
By the time they get to high school, because this is for the younger ones, like elementary and middle school.
And it is designed that the people behind this flex football program are saying that this is an opportunity to get them prepared for the tackle game without having them to go through all that head bashing earlier in life. Maybe I'm putting it too dramatically or violently. I don't think so, though. Last time I saw tackle football, they're bashing heads.
No, absolutely, and that's the whole deal. You know, we ask our viewers, do you think that this is going to increase participation in football? Because the numbers are just dropping off quite dramatically in Oregon. So would you feel more comfortable with your child playing flex, even if it is, you know, eventually transitioning into high school football? Regular traditional football.
Good morning, Christine Pitawanash.
Good morning. I just got the microphone on.
Okay. You're going to settle in. We're going to give our viewers a chance to watch the story that Catherine had on Friday nights, because if we're asking you to vote about this flex football business, you probably want to see what flex football looks like. So here it is.
All right, let's keep this fun.
Friday night football.
Flex on 3. 1, 2, 3, flex!
You can feel the energy, intensity, and drive. Everything you'd expect from grade schoolers on the gridiron, except for the tackling.
This is called Portland Flex Football.
John Charles and 2 other coaches just started the Portland Metro Flex Football Club, part of the co-ed national flex football program. The no-tackle sport is like flag football, except the kids wear light padding and soft shell helmets. The goal is giving them a safer option than tackle and the risks it poses.
Concussions, and a lot of parents are, getting scared that their kids are sustaining these injuries.
John Charles would know. The PSU Hall of Famer and former Atlanta Falcon has a mild case of CTE, a brain disease caused by repeated head injuries common in tackle football. These coaches feel even for young kids, the risk of head injury exists, especially since they're still learning the skills of the game.
We promote flex because now you're taking the contact away, you're taking the tackling away, and you're making it safe, fun, and you're making it also developmental for that player. That player can learn their position without the fear of being hit all the time.
It's really fun once you don't get hit really hard.
11-year-old Bo Newman plays flex and tackle football, which he started a few years ago.
I didn't have an alternative.
Bo's dad says he wishes he had.
As young kids with heavy equipment, 3rd graders, 4th graders, they're bobbleheads. And it's heavy, it hurts. This just makes it easy. They get to be relaxed, learn concepts.
Over the last 10 years, football participation in Oregon schools has dropped 17%. At the same time, participation in other high school sports has increased more than 6%. John thinks the 2 stats are related. He hopes that flex football will help change that and make the sport safer.
We do not want to lose the kid to another sport when he actually loves the sport of football because of concussions.
Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Just with
kind of, yes.
Sorry.
No, it is like flag football, except you have light padding.
Okay.
So as far as we can tell, it's kind of the same thing as flag football.
Okay.
They're wearing something a little different.
Like literally saw no difference between what I have always known to be flag football and this version of the game called flex football. Other than the kids are protected with these soft shell helmets and this light padding. I'm asking protected from what? Because there's not tackling.
Right, exactly. That's my point. Yeah.
So there, and Brian Matthews is saying he thought it looked a little more physical, but how could it be? The goal is you're not supposed to tackle or push down anyone.
No, but you were saying even Yeah, Brian is saying again, talking to us in our ear, that there were kids being thrown to the ground. But you were telling me during Catherine's package that when you're playing, you're supposed to really grab a big handful of that flag, and maybe with the waist and whatnot, you know, if you're moving,
true. Maybe you
momentum.
Could. Yeah.
My kids played flag football, and yes, they said, you know, you had to make sure you're grabbing like the kids' shorts. Don't just like try to grab that flag. That's pretty hard to do. Like,
Yep.
Making sure that you're grabbing a whole lot of that kid and yanking that flag off. And yes, I mean, of course, momentum, kids are moving. Someone could take a spill or they trip over each other.
So people are weighing in. Ricky said, yes, body's too young for all that heavy hitting. Absolutely. And Stanford, good morning, Stanford. He says no flex football in our.
Are you going to try to translate Stanford?
Oh my gosh.
I think he's saying no.
Only swimmers and hikers.
Yes. So he must be saying no flex football for his family. Only swimmers and hikers.
Oh, in our yeah, okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Thank you. You do speak Stanford.
I love speaking Stanford. Good morning, Stanford Walker.
People saying that's cool. I'm on board. And then on Instagram, Jeff in Oregon, he says Philadelphia Eagles play flex football. Is that supposed to be a joke?
It's a joke.
I mean,
yes.
okay.
You know what?
Yeah,
you
thanks, Jeff.
Ignore those. Ignore those jokes.
Mary says Clark County Youth Football offers flex for their younger kids.
So I'd love to hear more about that, Clark County Youth Football. If there's anyone else with information about the program, I'm wondering how is flex different than flag other than just the padding that's being worn? Are you allowed to be more physical in flex football? No problem, Christine. Are you allowed to be more physical in this flex idea than the flag?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Ginny Carlson says it can't hurt, but popularity of soccer has to be a factor also. Because, you know, they've got headers and they've got other things, collisions that could lead to concussions and whatnot.
Right.
So my question was, if you put your little ones in flex or flag, and then you put your middle schoolers in that, you transition them into high school at 14, 15, 16, 17, and they're back to the risk.
Right.
Right. I think then you have to make the call whether it's worth the risk. Because, I mean, I don't know if we already read her comment, but Janine, she's from Vancouver, I think. At least she says Vancouver. I knew a boy who played high school football, had 3 concussions. He stopped playing because he felt different. It was sad.
So Director Brian just got in my ear, and he does coach his son's football team. And he said if you drop in at high school level after not playing, he said you're at a serious disadvantage. You don't know how to tackle, like if you were practicing and whatnot.
That makes sense.
I feel like that, you know, that's a huge part of the game, just the idea of getting hit, hitting and being hit. And so if you can get that out of your system when you're in 4th and 5th grade, sure, it's not going to be as traumatic when you're in 9th and 10th. We worked with a guy, I'm not going to say our former friend and colleague's name because I don't want to maybe potentially embarrass his son who is off doing other greater things right now in his high school athletic career. But he said his son tried football for the first time as a 9th grader. And he was telling me about that first game that he goes to, freshman football. He goes to watch his son play, and he's on the, I want to say he's on the kickoff defense team. So his team kicking off to the other team now running at his team with the football. His job is to stop one of these players. And he said he watched his son like get in the position, and then as the moment of contact was about to happen, he kind of
Go right on.
Ole! I was like, you know what? I'm not ready for this just yet.
And a smart kid, right? You know your limits. Stay in your lane. If that's not for you, I get
no
it.
judgment.
By the end of the season, he was making contact with others, but it was for him in the beginning like, whoa, this is what it's all about.
I still think, you know, especially on those freshman teams, there is such a huge difference in size and development. Some of those dudes look like men, and then some of the ones, I guess they wouldn't go out for football, hopefully, but some of them are a lot smaller. I wouldn't want that person running at me like that either. We never had to deal with that in my house, in my family, because my son wasn't interested. He was always a basketball player, so he never was even, it never even came up. But knowing what I know now, had it come up, I would have said no. Absolutely not.
It's not, it is not just a big kid sport, though, to be honest with you. I mean, again, my kids don't play football. They want no parts of it. They are the skinniest kids, I want to say, in their 6th grade class. Not the smallest, but the skinniest, for sure.
They could still do it if they wanted to.
They're pretty convinced that they're going to break in half if they play the game. And I'm not going to convince them otherwise. But my point is that there are a lot of kids, not too much bigger than they are, that play, and they design the youth sports, and Brian, our director, will confirm this, so that the bigger kids actually can't even carry the ball. They design it so that the smaller kids are the only ones that can carry the ball and be tackled. If you're like, just say you're a huge 6th grade kid, you're 130 pounds, you're full of like adult muscle, they're not going to let you take the ball and run it down the field and run over kids.
I see.
That would be, I guess, a serious disadvantage. So the game is skewed in the youth divisions so that the younger kids, or pardon me, the smaller kids do have a chance to be competitive.
So that the older, bigger kids can then plow
Yes.
into them
You can,
as they
Brian,
run
right?
down
There-
the field.
There's no regulation
make any
against.
I know.
There's no regulation against the big kids pounding on them on defense.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes.
I think Director
Right.
Brian's talking to them right now.
Yes.
Okay,
he
that
is.
seems kind of okay.
Backwards?
Please set me straight, because
Well-
I would rather have the big kid who's faster and I can't catch him run
past
down
you.
Well,
the field, because
that's-
now I have the ball and you're coming after me,
Right.
big kid.
That's
that
a protective
seems ass
parents.
backward.
That's a protective parents mindset. I think that in
Okay.
order to make the games competitive,
Okay.
they don't just want to stick the ball in the hands of the biggest kids and say, "Go, no one can tackle you." I mean, it would
Why
be
don't we just
a
go
silly
weight
sport.
class like boxing?
I know, right?
The 100-pounders will play the 100-pounders
Right.
on up.
And Rachel Billings says, my 2nd grader plays tackle, as do his older brothers. It can be dangerous, but our coaches are trying to teach them how to tackle
I
appropriately.
hear that all the time.
And a couple people liked your comments, so
I was
thing.
texted by someone whose son plays youth football right now, I want to say in the 7th grade, and when we ran the story on our Sunrise show, he quickly texted me to say that we do need a follow-up on that. The fact that these coaches now at the youth and high school levels are teaching the kids the proper way to tackle. I don't know.
What is the proper way to
I don't
tackle?
know. What do I look like?
I don't
Do
know.
I look
My-
like the
my
physical type to
expert.
you,
you
Braxton?
might know. You might
You're
know.
more of an expert than I am.
Don't put your head down. Watch what you're doing. I
Yeah,
mean,
not helmet to helmet, but is there, what else is there?
but my thought on that is always, you're still running into bodies. Bodies are running into bodies. You know, do it the proper way. Do it. You know, it's safer than doing it the improper way. I think the guys in the college level and the pro level know what they're doing by that stage, and they're still getting hurt. I mean, it happens,
Right.
right?
And they're willing to take that risk. I mean, you talk to former players who are now suffering big time with CTE and all the debilitating diseases that can come along with it, and their slurred speech, and they're doing interviews, and they said, you know what, I still would do the same thing all over again.
Wow.
But they are professionals, and that is their choice. But it's still heartbreaking to see. I think it was Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel did a fantastic piece on exactly this. And I don't even remember who the man was, but his family was interviewed as well. And he was adamant, I would do it all over again.
But that's not to a man, because there are definitely NFL players, and I can't think of first names off the top of my head, but there are NFL players who have come out already and said, I'm not going to let my son play.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they
Well, there's
understand
been
the
enough
risks.
research, I think,
Right.
and talk about the instances of concussions.
I still think, actually, speaking of Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel, I believe it was in that same piece, they were looking at the fact that now higher educated, more affluent parents are the ones who are saying, my kid isn't going to play. And they were seeing an influx of lower socioeconomic kids of color playing and going up that trajectory. And they interviewed one of the moms who was African American, and she did say that that's how my kid is going to get to college. That's the only way. They look at it as that ticket.
Wow.
And so there are a lot of different things that go into who plays football at what level and why. It was just interesting to look at all the different perspectives.
And the reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that is interesting. And this could be a whole nother topic for another
Right.
Sunrise Extra. But it made me think when we were running that Woodlawn story and we talked about the importance of kids at that school seeing teachers the same color as they are and being inspired by people of the same color. It's like you don't teach this to kids, but I remember the day, like my son asked me, why were all the players on the screen black? Like he's like, talking about like following people of like colors. Like, where are the white people, Dad? And how do you answer that question? I don't know, son. I don't know where they're at right now. They're not on the field. Keep watching. Let's pay attention to the next play. But, the black and white, kids are noticing who's in front of them. Just like the boy I ran into at the airport so many years ago who looks at me and is like, hey, where's the brown man that I like to watch like me on the news? Lester Holt, right?
Oh, that's right. He was so cute. Yes. But I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, I'm going to take a really hard digression from what we're talking about.
I think I already did that.
I know you did, but you kind of opened the door. And I mean, I grew up in McMinnville, right? I was one of the few African Americans in McMinnville. Then my kids, who are multicultural, their dad is Chinese and Japanese, and my mom was black, and my mom was white, and my dad was black. They grew up in a predominantly white environment. And I remember my son, when he was younger, he said, "Don't you know a black barber?" He wanted one of the cool like haircuts, so we went to Northeast, and his little sister, who was all of 4, we sat there in this old school kind of barber shop. I think it was Geneva's. And Jaden, who had no concept of anything but, you know, mostly white people, she just pipes up, all innocent. She goes, "Why does everybody in here have dark skin?" Because she had never been in a predominantly black.
Wow.
Really? So, I mean, it can go
It's like,
either way. My little person of color is like, whoa, I'm not used
What's
to
going
this.
on?
it's interesting as a parent because all our lives we're told, you know, do not judge people on the color of their skin. Do not judge people black or white or anything else. But at the age of 4 and 5, you know, your kids just like
Are noticing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that skin's different.
Yeah,
You know, they can't help
absolutely.
themselves. Anyways, I don't know
back on
what this
track.
topic is or how you're
I know,
with this.
veer left,
Hopefully
then
you
come
just
back.
enjoy hearing us ramble.
It's a Monday. So Rob St. Helen said, "I play hockey and have had concussions in the past. Thankfully not bad ones, but it doesn't take a bad concussion to have symptoms." Absolutely
Right.
true.
Ricky says, sports can be fun, teaching teamwork, etc., but not one size fits all. Just make it safe for young kids.
Yeah.
And Ginny Carlson again, physical play is important in development. Did you read that one? Parents should not overprotect. Be smart, yes, but don't bubble wrap your kids. Fair enough.
I could see that.
I suppose. I don't think having them not play football is bubble wrapping them, do you?
No, I don't think so. I think that is, you know, a personal choice for families.
Yeah.
Let's see, Christine Lewis heard an ad that began, "Football is all about pain," followed by, "They had been in football since age 5. My immediate thought was, have you been into pain since age 5? Absolutely does not make me want to get into football or encourage it for anyone's kids.
Right. I mean, even, you know, I don't know if someone will jump down my throat about, hey, there's just as many broken arms or twisted ankles in other sports, but I'm not even so afraid of my kid being suffering a concussion, which would be terrible. But I'm also thinking about those other, you know, I'm thinking about those much larger kids, you know, landing on them a certain way that could break an arm.
Yeah, it's a contact
You know,
sport.
it's like, and then you're sitting there, and now you have to go to school. If it's your writing hand, now I'm going to deal with like the fact that I can't write in the classroom or type as effectively because of that darn sport.
Yeah.
I'm going to bubble wrap my kids, and you can't stop
All
me.
right, I don't blame you. Okay, I'm keeping my eye on the time, but did you want to talk about Brian Grant, or are we going to keep this one going?
Wouldn't it be rude if I said no?
No? I'm good with whatever.
I see the time. You're right.
Yeah.
We're coming up on 7:20. How about we say this much? Brian Grant and his foundation are putting on an event this Friday called Plates for Parkinson's. And so this is they have a fundraiser every year around May where they really try to drive up money for the organization. And Brian's foundation is all about teaching people that live with Parkinson's disease how they can still lead great lives by way of eating better, by way of exercise. So the foundation is built on those two principles: eating healthy, exercising regularly. If you do those things, you're not going to cure your Parkinson's,
Right.
but you can live a friendlier Parkinson's life. So again, that event in May usually raises lots of funds for the organization. This one they do in the fall. It's happening Friday night, Plates for Parkinson's. They say, we're not raising a lot of funds here, admittedly, but what we are trying to do is raise awareness about Parkinson's and to bring people in that circle together.
So are they cooking up dishes then, and then people go,
Yes.
they donate money?
5 different restaurants and their chefs are going to be at the event providing what are considered Parkinson's-friendly dishes.
I see.
And then the next question might be, well, what the heck is a Parkinson's-friendly dish? Well, there's a lot of criteria in there, but fresh foods being one. So you're going to see a lot of fresh vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables in these dishes. Raw fish is another example of something that's considered healthy.
Raw fish versus cooked fish, or just fish?
Raw fish. Yes.
okay.
The rawness of the fish. They're not using a lot of oils in
see.
that process, so it's kind of a cleaner diet. So you can experience what I've taken away when I went to the event a couple of years ago was, I don't know what kind of foods these are, friendly or otherwise. I just know they taste good.
Okay,
you know
see,
what I mean?
yes.
So really cool. And it was fun to run into some people who, you know, Brian does have some outward signs of his Parkinson's. You know, I mean, he does shake. I mean, when he's not taking his medication, he shakes more than when he's on it. there are some people that you wouldn't know. Maybe they're in their early stages of the disease. You wouldn't know that they have Parkinson's or not, but they'll come out and they'll talk about the stories we've done on the air, and they thank us for, hey, bringing attention to this disease and how it's been a struggle for them, but knowing that others in the community are dealing with the same thing has really helped them. So that's what Friday night's event's about. You can still participate. Last we checked, tickets were still available. It's Friday night in the Pearl District at a place called Urban Studio. $40 if you go to briangrant.org right now and get a ticket.
Wow. Okay, and all that goes to research for Parkinson's?
It goes to the foundation. Like I said, it's actually, the $40 is going to probably, they're not going to raise a lot of money, they said, for this.
Yeah.
The $40 is going to probably cover the cost of the space and cover the cost of some of the food. It's all free when you go there. You don't have to pay extra to eat the food. But ultimately, when they do raise money for the Brian Grant Foundation, they have a bunch of exercise programs in place for local people with Parkinson's. They have diet classes in place. You can go to a cooking class with local chefs that show you some Parkinson's-friendly recipes that you can put together on your own. So they have a couple of great programs that, yes, the foundation does raise money for.
So I'm going to be there on Friday. This will be my first time going, but I have a personal connection because my mom had Parkinson's, and I wish that I had known about some of these resources. I do some other work with Parkinson's Resources of Oregon, short for PRO, and I have to say about Brian, the first time I did their walk, which is here in downtown Portland, PRO's walk, Brian showed up with people. So it wasn't a competitive thing with his foundation and PRO. He was so generous with his time and throwing his support to the cause, which is what it's all about. And that's why I love, I feel like you don't have to pick one or the other. Everybody's pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal.
Do you feel like, and I don't know if you can answer this question or not, do you feel like since the time that your mom passed away to this point, there have been some serious strides made in terms of living with Parkinson's disease, making that life better? I mean, obviously there's no cure still.
Right, and I do think so. And I think awareness is huge because in my mom's case, her primary care doctor didn't even know and recognize the signs of Parkinson's. Right. He described it, if you have an elder in your family, as Katharine Hepburn shaking. So that's a different kind of neurology than the Parkinson's. So she was misdiagnosed early.
Sure, so was Brian Grant.
Yes, so I think the awareness is huge, not only for those of us with family members, but the general public, medical professionals. So let's see, my mom passed away in 2009. So in 10 years, I do think that there has been some strides, thank God.
Right.
And that's thanks to donations that people make to the foundation, and that's just what they need. Researchers need money in order to make these advances.
So thank you for doing that story. That was good.
BrianGrant.org.
Absolutely.
We'll leave you with that. BrianGrant.org. That's the website for Brian Grant's foundation and the place to get tickets for Friday's event. We're going to cut Brenda loose so she can go do some Today Show cut-ins on TV.
Have a good day.
Bye, guys.